We're going to get through this together. Drake, For All the Dogs album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Drake. The man needs no introduction. You know who the hell he is. He's been at it for a while. He's been one of the mainstays of modern hip-hop and R&B and many other genres that he's touched down on. And over the years, I've had a very, very conflicting relationship with Drake's music. For years, I defended the hell out of him. I mean, I still think Thank Me Later is really kind of underrated. Take Care is a modern masterpiece, and if you don't like Drake, and you never have been into Drake, but like hip-hop and rap and R&B, go check out his If You're Reading This, It's Too Late project. It's really fantastic, and it's very different than the rest of his discography. Outside of that, though, I've certainly had some issues with Drake's music. However, I have this very weird issue with Drake, and that is he knows how to keep me around for just long enough. And what I mean about that is, while I haven't enjoyed where he's gone over the years, I joke with my friends that there is always that one song on a Drake album that will end up in my top 10 singles of the year. I've never been and Nothing Was the Same guy. It's not my album from Drake, but I do enjoy tracks like Worst Behavior and Hold On, We're Going Home. I mean, shortly after he dropped Views, and Views sucks. Like, Views really sucks, but I would still argue that Hotline Bling is the pinnacle of pop rap, and it has never been done any better than that. I mean, after that, it just got even worse. I mean, Scorpion. I've met one person who enjoys Scorpion, but I feel like Nice for What is literally one of the best tracks that Drake has ever put out. And in the last few years, things have somehow gotten even worse. Quantity over quality, time and time again from Drake, as he continues to push himself to put out these ridiculously long projects like Certified Lover Boy and Honestly Nevermind. These are easily his worst albums that I can barely sit through these days. But each time I feel like Drake just tries to push himself harder, comes out with an album way over an hour and like 2 or 3 tracks are okay, and that's being generous. We've also gotten projects like the Dark Lane demo tapes and Care Package, like all these albums, so much Drake, but so little of it is actually quality material. Now, this is his first solo album in a few years. Honestly, leading up to this thing, I did not know what to think of it. I did not want to get my hopes up too high, but this album's a little different, friends, because Drake has been promising the return of that old Drake, which I don't even know what that means, because, artists do progress. Or at least they try to. But leading up to this album, I had my reservations, but I did enjoy the singles. And, I mean, this album certainly exists. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This album has been one of the hardest for me to rate all year, just because of the genuine wide display of quality that we get here. Because I'm going to say something that I didn't think that I was going to say. Like, the first, third of this album, or the first 8 or 9 tracks, Drake knows what he's doing. Virginia Beach, say what you will about modern Drake, this is a great intro. I love the icy cold beat and the warped soul sample, and honestly, Drake sounds on top form. Lyrically, he's not coming off as cheesy as usual, which, I mean, that is a compliment. It's certainly better here, and his sung vocals actually sound really good. It's not overly flashy, and it's certainly not life-changing, but I would already take this track over anything on Certified Lover Boy. I have a lot of the same feelings on Amen, featuring Tizo Touchdown. Once again, super classy beat. We get some really great performances on this track, and vocally I've been, very on the fence when it comes out to Tizo Touchdown stuff. I haven't been wowed by a lot of his material, but I love this as a feature here. He sounds great. He sounds right at home on this beat, and I don't want to be that guy, because there will be plenty of those people, but this kind of does sound like the old Drake, or at least Drake from the Take Care era. And I don't just mean lyrically or vocally or the more R&B tinged sound to this track. I mean, as far as Drake's performance goes, the swagger is here. He's got this charisma on this track. I'm actually impressed. Fear of Heights, I don't know where this track came from, but all of a sudden we're getting this icy cold, super aggressive version of Drake. This beat is killer. He just sounds so cold-blooded here. I'm pretty shocked to hear that. And the beat, I mean, it switches up halfway through and gets even heavier, and I'm actually wowed by it. It's heavy, it's chilly as hell, Drake sounds super aggressive. It's one of the best deep cuts here, and Daylight is also really good. And look, we're certainly going to get to just how bloated this album gets. I'm not going to be praising this thing until the cows come home, but I hear tracks like Daylight, and I get excited. This booming beat, once again, it's killer, and Drake sounds fired up. It's energetic, it's gritty, it's ice cold. I did not expect that. First Person Shooter featuring J. Cole. This track is really good, honestly, and if you've been a fan of this channel or read my reviews in the past, I've never been a J. Cole fan, but I was genuinely curious about a crossover track between Drake and J. Cole, and what do you know, this actually really works. Drake continues to be on his A game. This beat is just so triumphant. This sounds like a happening. No, the hype is absolutely real, and J. Cole's feature, I didn't know he had this in him. We also get IDGAF featuring Yeet, and I'm going to be brutally honest, I have not been exposed to much Yeet in my days. But yeah, he sounds right at home on this beat. This beat, which is also super cosmic, it's got these wonky synths floating in and out. And you know, I'm just going to pause and just say, a lot of the beats and a lot of the production throughout this entire album, even if I don't end up enjoying the track, my hat is off to it, because more often than not, they're really good. And Slime You Out, featuring SZA. Drake, I don't know how you did it, but this is the real deal. Drake promised the old Drake on this album, and I still don't know exactly what that means, but for a few short minutes, I really do get it. The classy singing, God, the lyrics, they're just so heartbroken. And not for nothing, SZA sounds like she was born for this track. On all fronts, this track is genius. It is an awesome single, and do not be surprised to see it very high in my top 50 singles of the year. Now, time to address the elephant in the room. This thing is 23 tracks long and almost an hour and a half, and I don't know who wanted that. I certainly didn't. But we are not out of the woods when it comes to Drake's modern music. Let me tell you, Calling For You, featuring 21 Savage. This is a toughie. On one hand, the production and Drake's very dark, intense performance is really good. But the rest of this track is just kind of up in the air. Like, for one, Drake's verses are actually really good. He doesn't slow down with intensity, but then he's putting on these goofy vocal inflections, and I don't get it. The spoken word portion of this track gets so annoying, so fast. Like, why are we whining and complaining about jerk chicken oxtail and comparing that to prison food? Come now. This track just gets annoying. It's also 5 minutes long, and I'm a big 21 Savage fan. He's probably one of my favorite modern MCs, but he just did not bring his A game here. 7969 Santa, I mean, I heard that icy cold beat on this track that starts this track off, and I got very excited. It falls apart quick, though. It's Drake that really brings this track down, and I hate to say that, mostly because his lyrics suck out of nowhere. They have taken a complete nosedive, and his singing sounds phoned in. Where are these cheesy lyrics coming from? They have overtaken this album very, very fast. No, it is not a track for me. It is really rough to listen to, and the Snoop Dogg skit at the end, I mean, it's cute, but that's about it. As a matter of fact, this second leg of this album gets real sloppy, and I'm not talking about just average tracks. I'm talking about some of the worst music I've heard all year, including Bahama's Promise. This may be the worst track here. I think it is. And I don't mind Drake getting a little emotional. It's what got him the fan base that he originally did. What I don't like to hear is Drake whining over nothing. This fake classy beat just sounds like it was thrown together in 4 minutes. Charisma isn't here. The lyrics suck. This sounds like Drake whining over elevator music, and I'm not here for it. And the dog sound effects that pop up on this track and many other tracks on this album are just aggravating me more than anything. anything. Tried Our Best is not much better. Once again, this track has a pretty classy, a pretty sharp beat that actually excited me. It's Drake, once again, that brings this down. His performance, once again, he sounds bored. And that's what makes this album just so hard to rate. Stripped down, like if you put this album like half of it, like if you just trim this down to like 12 to 13 tracks, I'd argue this is Drake's best album since Take Care. But this is just so freaking cringeworthy by the end, and the sus lyrics that we get, woo! But there's also a lot to like in the second half, like the Screw the World interlude. What is this? This is a weird interlude, and it's not much to it, but it's this weird, kind of out there, lo-fi, very harsh interlude. It's gnarly, it's nasty, the beat is dusty, and Drake's vocals are drenched in effects. It does not sound like a Drake anything, but it's exciting. What would Pluto do? I don't have any issues with this track. I actually like it quite a bit. The beat is remarkably fresh, and Drake sounds rejuvenated here. Here, he sounds confident. His charisma seems to be back. I mean, I'm not going to just sit here and plop this old Drake label on a track like this, but it does have a lot of the same elements. Yeah, it's a great deep cut, as is 8 a.m. in Charlotte. This is the real deal, the soulful beat, Drake's incredible, laser-focused performance on this track. There's a lot to love. Most importantly, there is no bullshit on this tune. Yeah, it's a little lengthy, but Drake keeps you invested for the whole entire thing. He genuinely sounds in top form on tracks like this. It's not like Drake doesn't have that fire left in him. The BBL Love interlude, once again, it's steamy, it's very classy, it's sexy. And lyrically, no, it's not a masterpiece. There's actually lines that make me cringe pretty hard, but at least Drake owns it. And his vocals in this register, some of the best on the entire album. Another Late Night featuring Lil Yachty late in the album. This is a real treat. I love the upbeat, synth-heavy beat and just how much, God, there's so much of a connection the two have. I mean, Yachty, I know he's an acquired taste, but I actually have a soft spot for the dude, and I think that he just really nails this feature here. The two have some serious chemistry. I mean, he sounds just as confident and energetic as Drake. And Away From Home is just as sharp. Look at Drake just kind of like getting that second win late in the album. I mean, I wish it was enough to save it. This is lyrically one of the most nostalgic and sweet tracks here. And it has a lot of heart to it, but it's also got this minimal beat, and Drake sounds fired up still. Yeah, it is really good, but why is this album so lopsided? Members Only featuring Party Next Door. I was excited for this track. These two have put out awesome tunes together. And you know what? I actually really love the very warped Rainy Day beat that we get. But then, once again, Drake just shows up with another boring, half-asleep performance. I mean, the production and the beat, they're actually pretty good, but Drake doesn't bring his A-game, and Party Next Door, like, adds nothing. Drew a Picasso, once again, I like the Rainy Day beat, the production's fine. But I feel like Drake's getting a little too comfy at this point. Like, this sounds to me like we've hit a wall and we're not getting around it. All that comes with some really uninspired vocals. Like, this track is the definition of same old Drake. It's just there. And if you're fine with that, good on you, but I'm not here for this. All the Parties featuring Chief Keef. I mean, my 21 and 20-year-old self is freaking out for this collaboration. But I don't think this track does either one of these gentlemen any favors. I mean, Drake sounds fired up, actually. His energy is commendable, but this beat is one of the worst on this album. And I'm sorry, I'd argue that Chief Keef actually brings this track down a few pegs. And it sucks because the beat switch is really good. I mean, this track certainly is not the worst track here. There's elements of it that I do like, but it's just very average. Oh my God. And like, I cannot believe that Gently featuring Bad Bunny actually made the cut to this album. I mean, I've had some fun with dancehall Drake in the past, but this ain't it. My Jesus, does he sound awkward singing in Spanish or what? And it actually gets worse as this track progresses. It's maybe the most cringeworthy track I've heard all year. And Bad Bunny saves the day because he sounds right at home on this beat. He sounds fine. I actually enjoy his verse quite a bit. But overall, this is a really, really awful track. I mean, the one saving grace that it does have is this is like the shortest track here. And Rich Baby Daddy featuring Sexy Red and SZA. No. This beat is so out of place. I actually like it, but not for a Drake album. By 30 seconds in, this is one of the most obnoxious tracks that I've heard all year. Thank God there's 5 more minutes. cringy one-liners, this awful Sexy Red feature. I feel bad for SZA because she actually owns her verse, but like she didn't need to be here. She's easily the best thing about this track, but she can't save it. Tracks like this, moments like this, is what makes an album like this so hard to get through. And Polar Opposites as a finale, yeah, it's there. I mean, listen, we're talking 23 tracks into almost an hour and a half of an album. I'm tired. And I don't know if I'm just tired from listening to this album, but I could have taken or leaded this track. I don't remember anything about it. This literally sounds like an AI-generated Drake song, which none of us wanted. I need a nap. This is one of the hardest albums that I've had to rate all year. We're going to start with some positives. On one hand, Drake tried here. Drake really did try. His energy, his charisma, his lyrics, his singing have not been this good in years. I'd argue since probably Take Care era Drake. I'm actually surprised with how good so much of the material is here. Like, I have no problem putting this on my cardio playlist, and a bunch of tracks here are really impressive. They're great features. And like I said, from start to finish, there's very few tracks on this album that I don't love the production and I don't love the beat. That's an A+ in my book. But the cons is that somebody needs to sit down with Drake and say, no, don't do that. If you strip this album down to 12 tracks, we'd be talking about maybe an 8 out of 10 record. The problem is, this is almost an hour and a half and 23 tracks, and the second half of this album is a massive fall off. I'm not talking about just average kind of hanging out Drake tracks. I'm talking about some of the most cringeworthy material that I've heard all year. The good material here is exciting and reminds me what I love about Drake. The bad material here makes me want to skip the next Drake album. It is a very, very hard dilemma that I'm in here. But I will say this. The good material here is tremendous. So I think I'm being fair by giving this album a light 6. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.